This is the ultimate 3v3 arena composition tier list for Cataclysm. Classes and specs will be placed in tiers from S, the best of the best, down to B, which are still highly viable, however not nearly as good as the S tier comps. This list counts for the entire expansion. There are a few differences between the individual PvP seasons, but it's mostly that casters get stronger as they get access to some overpowered PvE trinkets and weapons as the expansion goes on, and rogues get a big boost from legendaries and trinkets from Dragon Soul in Cataclysmic Season. I will not be calling the compositions by their names, such as Thug Cleave, RLS or Vanguard's Cleave, since these can be confusing especially for newer players. And as far as the healers in 3v3 go, Resto Shaman is the best overall and usually works the best with most comps. Holy Paladin and Resto Shaman are the most defensive healers. Disc Priests offer more offense with dispels, mana burns and a lot of CC, but are also more squishy and are usually played in compositions with classes that can peel for them and keep them safe. And Resto Druids are solid but not super impressive option. They can work well with a number of comps, provide a ton of crowd control, but also require a more skilled player. Holy Priest is never played in 3v3, and Holy Paladin is just a solid option with reliable heals and strong defensive cooldowns. And you generally don't want two of the same classes in your 3v3 team, so if you have an enhancement shaman on team, chances are you will want to have a non-resto shaman healer. The 3v3 leaderboards will be full of these 4 S tier comps. There is no doubt in my mind that all of these are far above any other arena compositions you can play in 3v3 on Cataclysm. Marksmanship Hunter, Subtlety Rogue and Disc Priest, or Resto Shaman, is the best comp for any PvP season, and it even counters the other S tier comps. Insane and very frequent burst. If you aren't expecting it, the game may finish within a few seconds. Tons of crowd control and no need to cast. Another similar option is with a Feral Druid instead of the Rogue. Better for spread pressure, but you usually only want to focus on one kill target anyway, and you will lack the stun lock potential and frequent burst of a Rogue. Affliction Warlock, Subtlety Rogue and Resto Shaman, aka RLS, is one of the most deadly and infamous compositions on Cataclysm. The Warlock does an insane amount of AoE in combination with crowd control from both himself and the Rogue, while Rogue can also peel for the Warlock very effectively, letting him free cast. Unholy Death Knight, Marksmanship Hunter and Holy Paladin ideally, but can also be played with a Resto Shaman or Disc Priest. This was a BlizzCon winning composition back in the original Cataclysm. It has crazy crowd control from Hunter, unreal pressure from the Death Knight, and very strong and reliable heals from Holy Paladin, along with Hand of Freedom, Sacrifice and Protection. Compositions in A tier are still rank 1 viable too. RMP, aka Frost Mage, Subtlety Rogue and Disc Priest, is a solid option as on any expansion. Tons of crowd control and great burst. However, with how many hunters there are in Arena on Cataclysm, Frost Mages have a much harder time. You will also really have to watch out for your opponents trying to just delete your healer and often help him out. Feral, Affliction and Resto Shaman is very similar to RLS from the S tier. This time your AoE potential with Bleeds and Warlock's Dots is much greater. And finally, a true triple DPS comp that is highly competitive. Consisting of Retribution Paladin, Subtlety Rogue and Marksmanship Hunter, this would be the ideal setup, but you could also potentially swap either the Hunter or the Rogue for an Unholy or even a Frost Death Knight, maybe a Biz Mastery Hunter, and do very well with this comp too. It has an amazing off healing from the Paladin, crazy crowd control from both Rogue and Hunter, and of course, more than enough damage. Fire Mage, Shadow Priest, combined with either a Holy Paladin or Resto Shaman is deadly, with all of its AoE pressure, combustion and dots, but also mass dispels from Priest. If played right, this comp can go all the way to the top, much like Fire Mage and Affliction Warlock, which is also extremely similar. Timing your combustion right will be crucial with both of these comps. And the last one in A is Unholy Death Knight, Affliction Warlock, and any healer except Priest. Disc Priests generally don't work as well with Warlocks since the diminishing returns on fear. Crazy AoE but also single target pressure, solid crowd control, especially from the Warlock, and decent peel from the Death Knight through Desecrated Ground, Chains of Ice, Death Grip, and Pet Leap. B tier introduces more red paladin compositions. You could easily make an argument of putting Red and Unholy and Red and Marksmanship Hunter in A tier. Both are extremely viable, Hunter providing more crowd control while Death Knight is played more aggressively, and overall all the red paladin comps usually perform much better on the earlier PvP seasons in Cataclysm. You could also play with Feral or Enhancement Shaman and Retribution Paladin, both very solid options, and add a Resto Shaman for more defensive gameplay or a Disc Priest for more offense. Arms Warriors also have a few solid 3-3 options. Marksmanship Hunter, Affliction Warlock, and Feral Druid all work amazingly well with Warrior. They complement Warrior's lack of crowd control, while he provides the Mortal Strike effect and a little bit of peel with Hamstring and Charge. And you can choose to play it with any healer except Disc. Disc Priest just doesn't provide enough healing to keep the Warrior alive most of the time. Unfortunately, most of these DPS classes will have better options to play with from A or S tier, so Warriors may struggle finding real good arena partners. Unholy Death Knight, Shadow Priest, and Resto Shaman isn't very popular, but worth mentioning too. Again, don't underestimate the power of Mass Dispel on the DPS class, meaning you can take off crowd control from your healer even. Feral Druid can be played with both Fire or Frost Mage, and a Resto Shaman or Disc Priest on top of that. Very good crowd control, peel, and single and AoE damage, and if you really like to see enemies dying over a period of time, then playing with dots as Affliction and Shadow Priest is something for you. I would definitely recommend playing with a Resto Shaman or potentially a Holy Paladin in this comp, as there is nobody to peel for you and keep the enemies off. And lastly, there's a few classes and specs that are extremely similar and can work interchangeably. Balanced Druid, Shadow Priest, Elemental Shaman, Fire Mage, and Affliction Warlock are all great in 3v3. They all have some of the best AoE overall in the game and are all ranged caster classes. There's many comps where you could swap one for the other and the comp will still work great. That is why I wanted to mention them here. There's so many options of solid 3v3 compositions. I listed the most popular and prominent ones with the best track record, but as the old saying goes, the game is balanced around 3v3 arena, so you can't really go wrong with any composition unless it's combined of all F tier classes, like a Fury Warrior, Holy Priest, and Destro Lock, obviously. Thanks for watching, give it a like if you liked it, comment about your experience in Cataclysm 3v3 and what your expectations are, and in case I forgot to mention a good arena composition, let us know. See you soon in another Cataclysm video.